My name is Megan and I'm a librarian at the Field Teen Center at the Parkway Central Library, which is the main branch of the Free Library of Philadelphia. As a librarian, I buy new books for the collection, I manage the books that we currently have in the collection, I help plan programs and events. Sometimes that means going into schools and doing workshops about research or information literacy, and I get to hang out with teens virtually right now during the pandemic, and hopefully someday soon, or soonish, someday, in person. It's my favorite part of my job, so hopefully we'll be back again together someday. But in the meantime, we're hanging out virtually and it's great. I read a lot of fiction, and I read a lot of books in 2020, but I just found a few that are on the shelf right now that I really liked reading, and I'm going to tell you about them briefly. First, I have Not So Pure and Simple by Lamar Giles. I loved this book. I've been telling people all year that they should read it. I read it at the beginning of the year. I think it came out maybe in February. It's about this boy named Dell who gets roped into a purity pledge group at his church that he's not really into, but he goes along with because there's this girl, Kiera, that he's really interested in who's involved in that group. And through kind of a weird series of events, the kids at his church are not allowed to go to the sex ed classes that are happening at his school. So they get Dell to agree to give them answers to their sex ed questions. While all of that is happening, it's a really funny book. It's really realistic and honest about, this boy and his experience just being a teenager and living his life. But it's also this really great examination of toxic masculinity, what it means to be a man in society. I absolutely loved this book. I'm a fan of Lamar Giles anyway, and I love his mystery novels, but this was kind of a turn for him. And again, like I said, I've been recommending it to people all year. You should definitely read it. Next I have My Lady Jane, which is by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. This is a really wacky, hijinksy take on historical England. It's set during the 16th century, during the time of Lady Jane Grey, who you might have heard of as being the 9 Days Queen. She was the Queen of England for 9 days when she was a teenager, before she met an untimely end. This is a book about that person, except in this world there are people who can turn into animals, and the book goes off in a direction that history never did. It's really, really funny. I laughed out loud a lot while I was listening to that book. It moves really fast. Highly recommend. Next we have I'll Be the One by Lila Lee. I really love rom-coms, and this was like a fluffy, sunshiny, marshmallowy rom-com about this girl, Sky, who is a Korean-American dancer living in Los Angeles, and she's also fat. So when a K-pop reality show competition comes to LA, she's determined to compete, to show everybody that she is more talented than anyone else in the competition, that fat girls can do it too, even though there's not historically been a place for fat girls in K-pop. And so this is about her going through that competition. Of course, while she goes through it is a rom-com, so she meets this really cute model who's super famous named Henry Cho. They start to develop a bit of a relationship. I am not a K-pop person, really. I like K-pop, I don't listen to a ton of it, but while I was reading, I kept stopping to go watch YouTube videos of idols performing the dances that she describes in the book. The descriptions of the dances and the music are so fun, and the book, honestly, is just a really good time. And then last, I read The Poet X during 2020. I know this book came out in 2018. I was late to the party. But The Poet X is by Elizabeth Acevedo, and it's a novel in verse. You can see that it's written in poem form. The point of view of this girl named Xiomara, who lives in Harlem and is an aspiring poet, and she'd really like to write poetry, but her mom is not into it. Her mom is also not into the idea of her dating, even though there's this boy that Xiomara is starting to see on the sly. So this book is told from her perspective. It's just really full of passion and life. The poetry is absolutely gorgeous, and I have to say I listened to this book on Hoopla because I wanted to be able to hear the poetry, and it's totally worth it because it's read by Elizabeth Acevedo, and you can really hear that she's a performance poet. She's a slam poet. It's so beautiful to listen to read out loud. It also won a ton of awards. You can see that it won the National Book Award. It also won the Prince Award and the Belpré Award after it came out. So this is a really important book. If you want to read any YA book that has come out in the last few years, highly, highly recommend The Poet X. But like I said, I'll recommend a book to you anytime. It's my favorite part of my job. All you have to do is find us on Instagram at FLP Teens. That's FLP Teens. You can find us on Facebook if you search for Field Teen Center, or you can always email us at teencenter@freelibrary.org. It's been really great meeting you. Have a good one.